Good morning. On behalf of myself, Chairman Councillor Sarah Trotter and my Vice Chairman Councillor Annie Kelly, welcome to today's Employment Committee meeting. I'd like to welcome all the officers, cabinet members and members to this meeting. I would particularly like to welcome our Democratic Services Officer, Sarah Downs. I understand Sarah has been at SKDC since last year, but this is her first employment meeting in her role as our Democratic Officer. Like Alice, I'm sure she will do a sterling job helping the meeting to run smoothly. Thank you. Also like to welcome Fran again. I know at our last meeting, she was sat at the back looking what was going on, but she's now part of our meeting. So welcome, Fran. And also welcome Sam, who is our project lead, Sam Fit. So thank you. If you wish to ask a question, please indicate to my Vice Chairman, Councillor Anna Kelly. Okay, before we commence our meeting, I'm sure, like me, your thoughts and prayers will be with the people of Ukraine and their families at this difficult and tragic time. And I'm sure we reflect on that, and we are lucky to be here. So basically, thank you. Right, now steaming on to item 1, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. There are no apologies. All committee members present. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, disclosure of interest. Are there any members who have an interest to declare? You can declare this during the meeting. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of January 2022. If you can please refer to pages 3 to 8 of your agenda pack. Do I have any amendments or comments for accuracy on page 3, page 4, 5, and 6, and finally page 7, and I note that page 8 has been intentionally left blank. Can we agree that the minutes are a true and correct record of the meeting held on the 19th of January 2022? Can I have a proposer, please, for the minutes? Councillor Adam Stokes propose, and a seconder, Councillor Barry Dobson. Thank you, gentlemen. Carried.
If I can.
Oh, sorry.
Fortunately, I was at an urgent meeting in.
Of course,
away,
yeah.
So
a note to Councillor Cook's abstention. So, a show of hands, please. All those in favour? Thank you. Against? Carried. Okay, moving on to item 4, to consider updates from the previous meeting. Do we have any comments from the committee members? Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Obviously happy to update, obviously, in terms of where we are in terms of the pay policy statement that obviously went through the full council meeting, which obviously voted on by all 4 members. So apart from that, the only other item, which obviously we'll discuss later, is the Chief Executive's appraisal, which I'm happy to do obviously in closed session.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. We now have item 5 found on pages 9 to 16 within the agenda pack is obviously the gender pay gap. The Employment Committee are asked to note the outcomes of the 2020 to 21 gender pay reporting. Can I ask Councillor Annie Mason, our Cabinet member, to give the presentation? And I understand Sam Fit, the project lead, will also take part. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Council is required to report its gender pay gap figures annually, and I'm pleased to announce that for the year ending March 2021, the authority has reduced its mean gender pay gap by 0.35% since last year, and the median gender pay gap is also reduced by 6.4%. The gender pay gap shows the difference of pay for men and women across the organisation. The information in the report, together with Appendix 1, highlights key aspects of the gender pay gap reporting requirements and the breakdown of the information, including any difference in hourly rates and the male-female ratio for each of the 4 quartiles. At 0.45%, our mean gender pay gap is significantly lower than the whole economy and sector, according to the Office for National Statistics. For the whole economy, it is 14.9%, while the public sector, it is 14.8%. At 0%, our median gender pay gap is also significantly lower than the economy and the sector. The median gender pay gap for the economy is 15.4%, while in the public sector, it is 18%. The information and data provided is for the snapshot of March 31st, 2021, as per the regulations. The Council's gender pay gap position for 2020-2021 is extremely positive. It shows significant improvement when compared against the national figure, the sector figure, and its own performance in 2019-20. I think it's absolutely incredible that we've achieved this. I'm going to hand over to Sam Fitt, who will talk us through the presentation found in Appendix 1, and Alan Robinson is also on hand to answer any questions following the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Councillor Mason, and good morning, everyone. As Councillor Mason said, today I'll be going through Appendix 1 and talking you through South Stephen District Council's gender pay gap figures. Can we go to the next slide, Jordan? So this presentation can also be found in Appendix 1 of your pack, which please starts at page 13 of the pack. So the gender pay gap shows the difference in mean and median of hourly pay for men and women across the organisation. In line with government legislation brought in 2017, there are specific criteria for how the information is calculated, and this is reported in percentiles. And as stated, the information provided is a snapshot from the 31st of March 2021. Can we go to the next slide, Jordan? So as you can see, the Council's mean gender pay gap for 2021 is 0.45%. This is compared to 0.8% in 2020. The mean hourly rate for men is currently, it was at the snapshot £13.36, whereas the mean hourly rate for women was £13.30, which equates to a pay difference of 0.6 pounds, so 6 pence per hour. The median gender pay gap is 0% compared to 6.4% in 2020, meaning currently there is no difference in the hourly rate when looking at the median between men and women. The hourly rate for both men and women stands at £11.36. If we can go to the next slide, Jordan. So there is also a requirement to report on the proportion of females and male employees in each of the 4 quartiles as shown on the slide. In order to work out these quartiles, all employees were listed from highest hourly rate to lowest hourly rate and then split evenly into 4 sections. The number of females and males are then counted in each section. And some analysis of the information shows that in the lower quartile, there was a slight reduction in the percentage of women in this quartile. There is also less women in the lower quartile compared to other authorities, because this is likely due to SKDC having an in-house waste and recycling service, which has a larger male workforce. In the lower mid-hour quartile, we saw an increase in the percentage of women in this area compared to men last year. The upper mid-hour quartile, we saw a small reduction in the number of women, and in the upper quartile, there is a decrease in the number of males and an increase in females in this range. In order to explain these quartiles, when running reports on new starters and leavers, it showed that more men in the upper quartiles left the organisation and more females joined in the upper quartiles, which will have resulted in the change in percentages comparing to last year. This also goes some way to explain why the median hourly rate has levelled out and reached the same at 0%. Overall, when looking at our statistics, more men left the organisation at 50, with 54 men leaving compared to females, where 42 left, and more men joined the organisation at the lower quartile end compared to women. So 30 men joined at the lower quartile and 16 women joined at the lower quartile. And as I said, more women joined at that higher quartile end compared to men. We had 22 women join at the higher quartile compared to 14 men. So when looking at these figures in their entirety, it shows a positive picture, and any ongoing actions are helping to maintain the figures, and they'll be part of the action plan moving forward, linking in with the new people strategy.
Thank you, Sam. In a moment, I'll obviously ask for questions. I have to say, a really positive report, brilliant. We're at 0%. The things that I've picked up in the report myself was the word a huge improvement, which is fantastic. And also I picked up that the council is therefore confident that a gender pay gap does not result from paying men and women differently, which is what we're all aiming to. And this is for the same or equivalent work. So there is the fair, there has to be the fairness between what work is being done. Being a full-time worker before I joined the council, working side by side with my male officers, I think it's fair to say that it is important that we are recognised exactly the same in the same role that we do. So that's brilliant. So really, what is it? Ooh, move it out of the way. Okay, yeah. So and also the fantastic thing for working mothers, the promotion of family friendly policies, childcare vouchers, etc., flexible working. It's all moving positively, which I congratulate the council and all those involved, and thank you, Sam, for the presentation. So I'll now move to questions, please, from the committee members. Councillor Kellam-Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, I'll make some observations that I've not necessarily got any questions, and it is an incredibly positive report, as you've already advocated, as has Councillor Mason as well. And I think, obviously yesterday, and it was touched upon earlier, was obviously International Women's Day, and I think it's quite right that we as an organisation recognise that. And actually, if you looked at some of the Twitter profiles of some of the team members across the organisation, they make a significant impact, particularly in the leadership roles. And I'm pleased that, it does report that we've got 5% increase in the upper quartile of our senior leaders of the organisation in terms of being female, and obviously being led by our chief executive, and showing that, irrespective of sex, religion, whatever else, it's about talented people going into these roles, wanting to work for us. Obviously, there's always more we can do. But it's an incredibly positive report, and I'm very proud of where we are. And I'm very pleased with the organisation's response yesterday in terms of International Women's Day as well. So I just want to put that on the record as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. I understand Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for the report. You stole my words, Councillor Kellam. But I would like to ask Sam, if that's okay. I assume that over the last 10 years, the actual number of women performing within that lower quarter is improving, because women are now seeing that they have availability they have access to the jobs that may have been traditionally thought of as male roles. I just wondered if that is what is happening in terms of the distribution of people, not stereotypical roles for women. It's now sort of roles for I'll start again. Stereotypical roles for males. I'm sure that it's nice to see that there are more women within that area. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you say, there's more and more opportunities for women as the years progress. And I think, as the Chair, Councillor Trotter, mentioned, we promote a number of family-friendly policies here at the council, and we continue to do so, including things like childcare vouchers, flexible working, and now looking at more hybrid working measures. So yes, that kind of development is happening. And we are seeing that trend where more and more opportunities are available to females, and we'll continue the delivery of training and development to remove that unconscious bias and that recruitment procedures.
Just to expand on the answer that's given, I think if you look at the organisation in terms of the last 10 years, so particularly in terms of waste services, I think if you go back 10 years, you would say actually the proportion to male to female was predominantly, it was a male industry, it was a male organisation. Actually, you know, and any of us can go down on if you want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go and meet the workers, we've actually got a team of females that are now working out of the waste operative team and doing a fantastic job. And actually, I think that's starting to grow. And I think, like Sam said, you know, as we open up to different opportunities in terms of working practices and making it, you know, the name-blind recruitment and everything else, we'll have more opportunity for it to not be that male dominated. But I think the whole shift in local government, and particularly on the board I sit on the LGA, is how actually those stereotypes are actually disappearing in a lot of the industries across the organisation. So particularly in the direct works organisation in terms of housing, you know, and if you look at the increase, simply if you were a private consumer with plumbers, electricians, and, you know, you've got, I know in Stamford, we've got a female only electricians, because for single females that live on their own, actually they feel much more comfortable employing a female company. But I think in terms of training and skills, it's certainly changed over the last 10 years, especially here, I've seen.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. What I will say is I think there are attributes with both male and female, so getting the best from both is fantastic. Just got a question, probably going off piste a little bit. We were talking about male and female stereotypical roles. What about HGV driving? Is there anything in place, as far as you're aware, to encourage? I know, like you say, it's blind recruitment, to encourage male and females, you know, being involved in HGV driving, obviously, for the wagons that SKDC have got.
I don't know if you're looking at me on that one, Madam Chairman. I'm not aware of any specific. I mean, to get hold of HGV drivers is a challenge initially anyway, because of the short in the markets. But we can certainly look around a positive campaign in terms of recruitment, and I think that's always quite important. You know, is that when we are advertising, we do need to highlight some of the successes in the team as well. But I don't know if the Deputy Chief Exec would like to correct me.
I'd like to agree with the leader on that. So as always, but yeah. So obviously the manager at the waste is a female, Clover. So that does help and makes it feel more friendly and a less male dominated area that people may want to join. We do have certainly at least one female driver currently working, but we want to get as many people who can drive on HGV wagons as we possibly can, can't we? So we wouldn't want to be cutting out half the population by making it feel like a role that should be male dominated. So absolutely, there's work to do on that, and because we need more drivers. Yeah. So whether they're male or female is irrelevant to us. Yeah. But there's a whole market that we might not be getting into.
Thank you. I think it's really difficult when we talk about this in terms of not being tokenistic in terms of it being male or female. So we highlighted the waste manager. It is a very male dominated organisation in terms of down at the depot, but actually that individual was the best person for that job, and when interviewed, she was the rising star in that team, and that's irrespective of her being female. She was the best person for that job. The fact that she's female is fantastic, because actually she certainly motivates them all in the morning to get out and get onto the shift.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cook. I've had dealings with Clover and she's nothing but efficient. And as I say, with the HGV driving, it is a skill that you probably carry through, you know, when you move on and leave and start of a job. So fantastic. Thanks for updating me anyway. Yeah. Oh, Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just looking at the mean gender pay gap, this is the difference between average hourly earnings of men and women. So, you know, that, and also the median one was the difference between midpoints and ranges. Does that mean that there can still be two people doing the same job and there would be a difference between male and female?
Yeah, Alan, if you want to come back. on that?
So it is illegal to pay women and men differently for the same job. We don't allow that to happen. So this move towards the gender pay gap and equalisation of that is more about opportunity for both genders to be equal. So we have a clear system for job evaluation that means the same work is paid the same irrespective of gender, and it would be illegal to do otherwise. What this is around is those opportunities given and the kind of for the quality of that and to make the organisation attractive to the whole population of the district and beyond. So no, we don't pay people more or less for the same work. First of all, it would be illegal, and secondly, we wouldn't want to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson and Alan. Councillor Anna Kelly, I understand you want to speak.
I'll try and be more coherent this time. I just wanted to say this is so marvellous. I think it's so great that this has come together, and I think we should celebrate it very publicly. We should make sure that in this week particularly it gets out there to the public and all the members of the organisation so that everybody can see that this is a really good thing going forward. So I think we should try really hard to get that very much out there in the domain, public domain.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Kelly. We're very, very good to hide our lights behind a bushel, but I think this is something that we should be promoting and be proud of. Thank you. Any more questions or observations? Thank you. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Councillor Mason. So if we can move on to item 6, please, which is the pay review update. This can be found on pages 17 to 20 in your agenda pack. So the committee is asked to note the proposed actions and timescales for the implementation of the pay review. The committee are to note that, excuse me, I'm repeating myself. It will be a standard item for the next 12 months. And if you look at page 19, it actually breaks down the timetable. Okay, so if I can ask Councillor Mason, Annie again, please, to give the update on the pay review. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So this report provides a brief update following the endorsement of the pay review scope at the Employment Committee on the 19th of January 2022. The committee are asked to note the proposed actions and timescales for the implementation of the pay review that are detailed in the report. In particular, the details are provided on the next steps, and a quality impact assessment will be completed. Pay review working group will be established to develop the proposals and detailed action plans to deliver the agreed scope. Communications will be held regularly with the corporate management team and also the trade unions. Impact of proposals will be identified, which includes the financial impact and potential consultations that may be needed. Regular communications will be held with myself, the Cabinet Member for Finance, the Section 151 officer and the trade unions. Consultations will also take place with the Employment Committee and the relevant scrutiny committees, and communications plan will then be developed. You can see the timetable starts from April 2022 through to March 2023 with quarterly reports to this committee. It is intended that prior to the start of the next financial year, the equality impact assessment will have been completed and the pay review working group established. So this report is just for noting on the proposed actions and timescales for the implementation of the pay review. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Do we have any comments or questions from committee members? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I'm okay with this report and the proposals that we accept it. I'm just struggling a little bit in my own mind to understand it, to be quite honest. I don't know whether that's probably me. And I know at the last meeting we actually did agree the scope of it, so no problems with that. And I think at the last meeting, I also was a bit confused or not quite sure. Is it like a job evaluation? So I think I don't know whether it's just me. I can't quite understand it. We're reviewing the grades. It's not the actual annual pay award. It's actually looking at the grades and things like that. It seems like a job evaluation, but I must admit, I can't quite understand it in my own mind. So I don't know whether you could probably explain a little bit about what we're doing. I've read the report and say it seems fine to me, but are we just looking at the grades? It's a pay review. It's not a job evaluation as such, though, is it? It's not a pay determination. It's looking at the grades, isn't it? So I don't know whether Councillor Mason could explain a little bit more, or maybe I could see her afterwards. Or I'm struggling to understand it. That's my problem. Now, maybe that's just me, but
Councillor Wood, no, it's not just you, and no question. You know, if you feel you want to get the answer to the question, then no, that's why we're all here. We need to have a clear understanding. So
I'd be quite happy afterwards just
Yeah.
to talk to Jane about it.
Yeah. So I understand the Deputy Chief Executive, Alan Robinson, is going to come back hopefully with an explanation which will help you. As I say, that's why we're here, to ask questions and find the answers.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yeah, thanks for the question from the Leader of the Opposition. You're right. So it is not the national pay negotiation. In fact, I think that's now been settled for this year anyway. We recently received the notification of that. It's not around the annual inflationary pay review. You're right. What this is, but it's not a full-blown job evaluation of every role in the organisation either, because I'm sure you've got experience of that, and I've got experience of that, and we haven't got the 5-6 years that would take to finally agree. What we're trying to do here is deal with quite a number of anomalies that exist in our current our pay process, or that we believe exist, and also looking at the kind of some issues around that have been presented by the growth in the living wage and the kind of concertinaing up from the bottom of the pay grade. So ensuring we've got that differentiation. We talked earlier about waste. You know, with the continuing increase of the national living wage, it's almost like the supervisory roles end up being on the same pay as all the roles, and that's obviously an issue for us. So it will help us to deal with items like that. And we dealt with which items we're going to deal with in the report at our last meeting. But it isn't. It's neither of the two things you suggested, but it's somewhere in between where we're going to look at the anomalies and try and resolve it so that it's fair and so it's reasonable for everybody. Because what we have now is quite a complex set of rules, and we'd like people to understand exactly where they stand.
Thank you, Councillor Cook.
Well, obviously, I agree with the Deputy Chief Executive. I think for me, so I think for Paul's benefit, so the way I read this report is, obviously we've been through the restructure. Obviously, we're still ongoing in that process, and we need to put those people into the final positions. I think it's then a case of assessing those pay levels to make sure that they are appropriate, cross-benching them across other organisations, and making sure that if you are a head of service in this organisation, this is the pay grade you get across the board. And also where in the past we've had honorariums and some people have been paid a bit more than others. I think it's just finding that balance. So then actually we know, and it's very clear to our staff members exactly what the salary bands are going to be and what the expectation is and how you can progress and grow your career within the organisation. So it is a positive report. And I don't think there's anything massively controversial in it, to be honest, my friend.
Does that help, Councillor Wood?
Yes, it does actually. Yeah, and I agree with what I say. It seems to be like sorting out the anomalies. I wouldn't be keen on it if it was a full-blown job evaluation, which it's obviously not. It strikes me it's sorting out the anomalies. So I'm in favour of it. Yes, but that does help. Yeah. Thank you both to Deputy Chief Exec and Leader of the Council.
Yeah, thank you both. Councillor Kelly, I understand you have a question, observation.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to know, I can see the scope of the report over the months, and I see the final report comes together to the Employment Committee in March 2023. Is that too late in the financial year for the implications of the report to feed into the pay for the year that begins April 2023? Because we will have set the budget before the report comes in. So does that mean that we'll postpone it till April 2024? It would be backdated.
Yeah, I think I'll let Councillor Stokes is wanting
Yeah,
to
I'll
come
come in
back
on
on that.
that. Because during the whole timetable, the finance and myself will be involved, so we know the budgetary implications. So we'll be able to factor that into the budget for the following year.
Yeah, do either of you, who wants to go first? Are you happy with that or? Deputy Chief Executive.
Just that's how I envisaged it. We're working with the finance team and with Councillor Stokes as the portfolio holder for finance. I would expect that they will have sight of this. Of course, it won't be agreed until it comes back here, but it won't be a surprise. We will have worked on it. We'll have some ideas by then. We'll be able to, and we wouldn't bring a report here without the financial implications being built into it anyway. So that enables us to have that ongoing communication with the finance team and with the cabinet member.
Thank you for outlining that. Any other questions, observations from committee members? Thank you. As I say, that is for noting that particular item. Okay, we now move to item 7, the work programme 2021 to 22. This can be found on page 21. Does any committee members have any questions or additions to the work programme? No. Yep, Councillor Kelly.
Sorry to bother you. Can I just make a query? I noticed on the work item on page 21, in the box Chief Executive's appraisal, it says the committee to conduct the Chief Executive's annual appraisal. Should it be the committee arranges to conduct it? Because we don't actually physically do it ourselves. We set up the practical. I just wondered, people will think that we're appraising the Chief Executive, whereas we get an outside agency to do that, don't we?
Councillor Cook.
I know it's only semantics.
Well, I'm looking at you, Alan, but I'm saying I would probably rephrase the wording on that because that's not technically. I mean, we do. I mean, we don't conduct the appraisal. We have a process of the appraisal, which is then reported back to this committee, and obviously either the committee is going to support that appraisal or it's could vote it out if should it wish. But yeah, I mean, in the obviously it's on pink paper, so I can't really read it out. But in terms of, I think the recommendations in terms of the Chief Executive's appraisal are probably more closely aligned to the committee conduct the annual appraisal. I think it notes the contents and approves the targets and objectives set for the following year or something.
Yeah, I just thought, you know, this is on white paper, so other people may think that we are conducting it, and perhaps to make it more clear to a wider audience, we perhaps ought to rephrase it.
I can see the Deputy Chief Executive nodding his head. Is that something we can facilitate? Yes, that's a nod, a positive nod. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for outlining that. Yeah. So just double checking, any more questions on the work programme or observations? Thank you. We'll move to item 8. It is likely that the press and public will be excluded during discussion of the following agenda item because of the likelihood that information that is exempt under paragraphs 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended would be disclosed to them. So before we move forward, can I just check that obviously at this point